Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Pokemon Professors. Today we are going to be showing off my Glaceon GX Zoroark GX deck. I've made this by myself. I figured that, Zoroark being able to hit for 150 with the Choice Band, Glaceon putting 30 damage onto the bench with its Icicle or Ice Spear, kind of makes it very, very good. The math adds up to hit those 180 GX Pokemon. So it's a deck that I've played with quite a few times. I've played with it a lot on PTCGO. It does really, really well. It's very consistent. I usually get all three Zoroarks out onto the battlefield, and I get to trade every time. Obviously, the Glaceon GX is insane with its Freezing Gaze ability to be able to stop your opponent's GX and EX abilities. If your opponent relies on Tapu Lele with its Wonder Tag, it can't anymore. You just shut it down with your Glaceon. Same thing with Zoroark. If that's their draw engine, she just shuts it down. So we're looking at a little bit of a lockdown deck here without causing it to be a major problem for yourself and your Pokemon. You still have to worry about Garbodor, of course. That kind of shuts things down. But without further ado, I'm going to break it down for you. So we do a 4-3-line of Zorua Zoroark. I play the Zorua from Shining Legends just because we play double colorless energies in here. If push comes to shove, hopefully you never have to do this. You can go and ram your opponent. Obviously Zoroark GX just because it's a great card. Its Riotous Beating is strong in its own right, and that ability to trade every turn is just so good. Getting rid of cards that are no longer relevant in the match anymore to get 2 fresh cards is just such a powerful ability, and it just makes it so good for you to get to the cards where you have to, especially when you got to dig down for something like your Float Stone to get something out of the active because your opponent Guzmas to buy some time, or to find that Choice Band to reach that perfect number, or even a draw supporter. We also play 4 EVs from Sun and Moon base set. That Energy Evolution is really good, especially on turn 1 when you find yourself a Water Energy and you put it on this EV, you get your Glaceon out in the active, and you start the ability lock. We play 3 Glaceon. I'm a big fan of playing all 3 arts. I think they're all beautiful colors. They're good-looking artwork and stuff like that. I just love the artwork of Glaceon, period. As I mentioned before, you have this Freezing Gaze ability, the ability to just turn off all GX and EX abilities on your opponent's side of the field, not your own. Then you have this Frost Bullet attack that lets you hit 90 to the active, 30 to the bench. It's such a good card. It can really disrupt your opponent's plans, especially say, for instance, my opponent has a Tapu Lele on the bench, right? And then I come up and I Frost Bullet their active, and then I put 30 on the Tapu Lele. Well, I knock out their active. Up comes their Tapu Lele. They don't think I can take it out. Or a Pokemon with a Fighting Fury belt to give it more than 170 hit points. And then I come up and Polar Spear. Polar Spear does 30 damage times the amount of damage counter on your opponent's Pokemon. So if they have 3 on there, you've Frostbolt them. They have 3 on their Pokemon that they bring up. You're now hitting for 150 with your GX move, hitting that 180 mark for Tapu Bulus, for a Tapu Lele, stuff like that. You're just hitting those perfect numbers, taking out that Pokemon. So moving on, we also play 3 Tapu Lele just for that consistency. We do play quite a bit of supporters in this deck. So your Tapu Lele is important, especially getting that first turn 1 Bridget. It's so important in this deck to set up your board. You absolutely have to get set up early. You want to have your 2 Zoroarks out there, maybe a second Eevee, and Eevee in the active, and your Tapu Lele down. It's important to get set up. Otherwise, trying to Freezing Gaze things, you can stop their Wonder Tag on the first ability, first turn, stopping their Bridgets, or if they have, if they're playing Volcanion, stopping their Steam Up, or Zoroark. So that's what we got for the Pokemon. Moving on to the supporter line. We do play, like I said, a moderately thick supporter line. We have 2 Cynthia. Oh, I forgot to mention this Mewtwo. This Mewtwo is really only in there just to counter Buzzwole, just because Buzzwole is a nightmare for this matchup. You do play 3 Zoroarks, weak to Buzzwole, obviously. So this Mewtwo is in there just to counter that Buzzwole. Sorry about missing that card. But anyways, to the supporter line, we play 2 Cynthia, 1 Cyrus, 2 Guzma, 2 Bridget, 3 Sycamore, and 3 N. As I said, this deck is very reliant on its draw ability. That's why you have your Zoroark GX. Cynthia is such a good card. Shuffle 6. It's very, very good if you're dead drawing or if you need something else. It's awesome. Cyrus speaks for itself. Having that Glaceon up there, freezing gazing, stopping your opponent from being able to trade with their Zoroark is just havoc. And for your opponent to have a full bench and then have to choose 2 Pokemon just makes it very, very difficult. It's happened to me before when I've been on the other side of this deck playtesting. It's just so difficult to make that decision because you're like, oh yeah, I know what I got. And then your opponent comes up and does something and knocks out your Pokemon. So it's really frustrating to have a Cyrus done to you. And it's such a good card in this deck. We play the 2 Guzma to bring up Pokemon that you may have damaged with your Glaceon, and then you can come up with a Zoroark GX. Choice Bandit, hit it for 150 with a full bench. That just is a great play as well. You also have your, you can also use Guzma if you need to stall a little bit to try to get your board set up a little bit. I've seen that happen a couple times when I played with this deck. It's not ideal. You really want to use your Guzma for knockouts. But you can also use it as a stall tactic. We play 2 Bridgets just because, like I said, it's so important to get your board set up early. And if you prize both Bridgets, then you got to work through it with the Zoroark, trying to get him to help you set up your board. It can be a nightmare. So we play 2 Bridgets, 3 Sycamore. It's just really great to have that powerful discard, draw fresh 7. We do also play Puzzle of Time, so if you throw away something that's too valuable, you can play a couple of Puzzle of Time, grab those things back. But having Sycamore, so important. It can really help you dig for the cards you need and get you out of a rut. Also, we play 3 N. N is such a powerful card as a supporter. I know Cynthia is very popular too with what she can do, but just having N be able to, disrupt your opponent's plans, what they're doing, mess up their hand, end them down to 1 is so strong. So that's the supporter line. Next up, we have the trainers that are the item cards. As I mentioned, we do play 4 Puzzle of Times. We have 2 Rescue Stretchers, 4 Ultra Balls, 2 Choice Bands, 2 Field Blowers, and 2 Float Stones. As I mentioned before with the Puzzle of Time, you really only should play it if you have 2 in your hand to bring back your cards originally. One of my friends who playtests this with me uses it by itself, and it drives me nuts. But just being able to find 2 cards from your discard pile and put them back in your hand is so great. And Puzzle of Time just flows so well with Zoroark. Being able to just dig for cards constantly, you're never going to have an instance where you don't have 2 Puzzle of Times when you need them. They're there. We play Rescue Stretcher, obviously, to get our Pokemon that are important to us back. I feel like that's just kind of a staple in any deck. 4 Ultra Ball as well as another staple to go out there, find your Zoruas, find your Zoroarks, find your Glaceons if you don't have any water energy on your Eevees. And 2 Choice Band. Now, I thought about playing a 3rd Choice Band, but after looking at my deck list and figuring out what I'd had to pull, it just didn't make much sense because we do play against a lot of metal decks in this Prism set. And so getting rid of their Mount Coronet is just so important. You stop their energy acceleration. So that's super important. We cannot really afford to get rid of a Field Blower for another Choice Band. As I mentioned, we have Field Blower to get rid of tools and Mount Coronet. That's very important. And then Float Stone. We really don't play many Float Stones just because this deck's kind of light on retreating. We do play Double Colorless Energy to get stuff back. But if you find yourself in a pinch, Float Stone's always a nice card to have to get yourself out of that situation. Moving on to our energy, we play a moderately thick energy line. That's just because it's so important to get your Glaceon out there as soon as you can. So we play 3, 6, 7 water energy, and we play 4 DCEs. You want to have these energies to get them going, you got to get your Eevee out as soon as you can. That Eevee Evolutions with the Energy Evolution, sorry, it's from the Sun and Moon base set, but that Energy Evolution card, this works. If it's your first turn and you play this Energy Evolution ability bypasses the rule. So you're allowed to go and get a Glaceon right away. And that just messes up your opponent, especially when you go first. We do play 4 double colorless energies, obviously, because of your entire deck needs a double colorless energy. Your Zoroark GX, double colorless energy to Riotous Beating. You need your Glaceon GX for double colorless for its Frost Bullet and its GX move. And then obviously you have your Tapu Lele, who also needs a double colorless energy to Energy Drive. Really with this deck though, and the Mewtwo, obviously for the Psychic. But for the Tapu Lele, you should really never ever find yourself in the position where you're using Tapu Lele for Energy Drive. I've really rarely ever seen it happen in this deck, just because this deck is super consistent in getting its Glaceon and Zoroarks out early. So that's it for my Glaceon Zoroark deck list, guys. Let me know what you think of the deck list down in the comments. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you. Peace.